Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carruth Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2007 movie titled Hot Rod. Now, Hot Rod runs for an hour and 28 minutes long. It is directed by Akiva Shaffer. It is produced by John Goldwyn, Saturday Night Live founder Lorne Michaels, and Will Ferrell. The script was written by Pam Brady, Akiva Shaffer, Andy Samberg, and Jorma Taccone. The score was done by Trevor Rabin, the cinematography by Andrew Dunn, and the editing was done by Malcolm Campbell. And the stars of the movie are Andy Samberg, Jorma Taccone, Bill Hader, Dan McBride, Ilsa Fisher, Sissy Spacek, and Ian McShane. Now, many people at the time of the making of Hot Rod have asked themselves, is Andy Samberg ready to enter the film industry after only a one-year stint on the iconic sketch comedy Saturday Night Live? I mean, when you think about it, veteran alums like Adam Sandler and Will Ferrell, they took them many years to develop their acting chops in comedy before advancing through in their careers as movie stars. And now all of a sudden this young man, who's just wrapped up his second year on Saturday Night Live, has left the set and is now making his debut on the big screen. It felt as if Samberg was rushing his movie career too fast by not taking his time to gain experience like Sandler and Ferrell did. And even I asked myself, why? The only reason I could come up with was that at the time Saturday Night Live's roster didn't really seem primed up for movie stardom yet. Samberg was actually the only true star at the time who seemed eligible for stardom. The movie Hot Rod was a pivotal step in the right direction, but Samberg is still ions away from the success Sandler and Ferrell has had with their movies. So what is the plot of the movie about? Well, Samberg stars as Rod Kimball, who has ambitions to become a famed stuntman because his late father was a fellow stuntman who once worked for the legendary Evel Knievel. He doesn't have really any major goal in life, but the one thing he wants more than anything in the world is to get the respect from his father, Frank Powell, played by Ian McShane, who has verbally taunted Rod ever since he has been in his family's life. Even though he tries his hardest and has had his share of bumps and bruises and broken bones, he is still an awful stuntman, and no one seems to take him seriously. However, his half-brother Kevin, played by Jorma Taccone, and his dim-witted friends Rico and Dave, played by Danny McBride and Bill Hader, along with his love interest Denise, played by Ilsa Fisher, they seem to support him all the way. One day when he comes home, his mother, Marie, played by Sissy Spacek, informs him that Frank is now diagnosed with severe heart conditions and that he needs a substantial amount of money for much-needed surgery, or else he'll die. Rod decides to sacrifice his life and limb to raise the required money by attempting an impossible stunt, by stunt biking over 15 school buses. If he and Frank pull through this, he has fulfilled his destiny and finally gets to kick Frank's ass. That's basically what his goal is. Of course, as time goes on, we later reveal many secrets from his father's past, and it has been revealed that his father never really did work for Evel Knievel, and that it was just a one-time only thing, and that his real job was that he was a cashier at a convenience store, and his cause of death wasn't through a stunt-related accident. His actual real death was that he choked on some pie. That's the real thing. And it looked as though as if at times Rod almost wanted to give up hopes of becoming a stunt person, but it was through support of his half-brother, his friends, and his love interest that kind of encouraged him to get that drive back in order to save his stepfather's life and to kick his ass. But however, as always, like in these kind of movies, he actually overcame it. And, I actually enjoyed the climaxes, and, it was actually an enjoyable film. And even though I might be raving a little bit about this film, it's not exactly entirely that bad. So, in a nutshell, if you think that Hot Rod was a standard comedy, you may as well just say Hitler was just a serial killer. I mean, you're only told that because everyone else says so. But after seeing this movie, you'll know better that this movie goes way beyond just a standard comedy. Sure, you'll be manipulated to laugh for the sole purpose that everyone around you is laughing. Sure, the opening scenes are actually very hilarious with the faux jackass promo, the spoof of the 1980s film Footloose, and his falling down a cliff are vintage laugh-out-loud moments. And then by the second half, it just, starts to get weird. I mean, hey, it's not every day you see a man costumed as a grilled cheese sandwich combating against a man dressed as a taco. I mean, this racial joke goes beyond cereal by adding blood for good measure. Or maybe it was just taco sauce. Whatever the case may be. Samberg and his fellow cohorts managed to take even simple slogans like cool beans and turn it into a YouTube-infused rap that will definitely surely make everyone laugh, while you wonder how this scene made it into the final cut. Aside from, the continual brain farts and the weed-smoking flashbacks, the main flaw towards Hot Rod was that even though it sacrifices itself in its outrageous humor, giving this film more guts than brains, the main setback was the emphasis on Rod's hobby, as if nothing else really matters. The funniest thing about Hot Rod isn't how Rod keeps falling flat on his face through every stunt attempt, but it's the interaction between he and his eternally cranky stepfather. I mean, the way these guys bicker at each other are some of the best scenes in this movie. I mean, every time Rod tries to open up to Frank pulls off like a continual smart-ass remark, which eventually pisses off Rod every time. I mean, every time he tries to be like, Dad, I will pull through this. I hope you will feel better soon. And I really hope for a speedy recovery. And then he'll say something like, you're just stinking through your ass. Well, that's it! I'm gonna kick your ass! As soon as you recover, your ass is grass, man! I will plow you to the moon! He'll say some kind of shit like that, in that kind of anger-infused way. And it just really, really, really is enjoyably funny. I mean, the finale at the end leads to this climactic showdown between Rod and his fully recovered Frank. I mean, the way these guys threw themselves all over the place. There's even a part where he even takes something like a ninja star and it pierces through Rod. I mean, these guys were not determined to just, spare against each other. It looks like they were trying to kill each other. There was even a scene that took place, of course, during this fight scene. It leads them to the outside, where they're having a barbecue. And then in the end, finally, Rod gains his desire to kick his ass, and Frank eventually ends up giving in, saying that he has finally earned his respects. Even though I don't think he says it fully, but I think he finally did. Now, I've often questioned about Rod as to whether he's doing something for the sake of good or for the sake of bad. You know, it's kind of a bit of a Robin Hood yin-yang type of thing. You know, like when Robin Hood, you know, he robs from the riches, which makes him a thief. But he's giving something to the poor, which makes him a philanthropist. I mean, Rod is trying to help save this poor old man's life by, you know, giving him a new heart. But at the same time, he's not actually saving his life, you know, out of love. He's saving his life just so that he could kick his ass after. So I don't know if I have to... that's why I kind of question Rod's motives. Because, you know, he's doing something good, but at the same time he's doing something bad. I mean, I know he's trying to earn his respect from his stepfather, who has never really treated him very nicely. And maybe Frank doesn't really deserve it. But since we're seeing a man who's near the end of his ropes, we do take sympathy for Frank. But also at the same time, the guy has always been very, very cruel to Rod. And, you know, we're wondering, like, who is likable and which person is not likable. That is kind of a bit of a paradox of some sort. Some people would say that Rod is the bad guy because all he just wants to do is to earn enough money so that he could just kick his father's ass. At the same time, we have to take sympathy for Frank, being the fact that he's dying and that he needs the surgery. But at the same time, he's not exactly a likable guy either, because he's rude, he's ungrateful, and he's pretty mean-spirited. So it's kind of hard to really fully sympathize with both these guys, and yet they come across as the leading protagonists. Performance-wise, too, you know, Rico and Dave definitely have a lot of their funny moments. Jorma Taccone, he too also is funny as well. They have some great moments with each other. Ilsa Fisher, she was quite stunningly beautiful as Rod's love interest, Denise. Even though she is dating this stereotypical, cliched, rich douchebag. I think his name was Jonathan. Yeah, I think so. That was his name. Of course, eventually, as always, like, the rich douchebag winds up losing his girlfriend because she would rather prefer to be with a simple guy like Rod rather than this pompous, rich douchebag who drives an expensive car. So there were some pretty funny moments there. The disappointment, I guess you could say, was the performance of Sissy Spacek. Not to say that she was bad, but she was really, truly out of her league here. I mean, she is a great, talented actress who has won a couple of Academy Awards for her performances in Carrie and Coal Miner's Daughter. And she also she also turned in a great performance in one of Richard Farnsworth's last movie. What was it called? The Straight Story. Here she is kind of like not used very much in this movie, except to be, you know, like the one to be the bearer of bad news and to reveal just some random secrets about Rod, his father, and things like that. So she's not really used very much, which is a shame because she definitely has great talent, but she is just so badly underused. She's not really used very much. I think this was kind of a thankless role for her, unfortunately. And yet she's a really, really great performer. She's just not used very much here. Okay. One of the most memorable scenes had me laughing was when Frank pulled out a ninja star and threw it at Rod. It was truly one of the best scenes ever witnessed in a film that I've seen for a long, long time. And while Hot Rod is a very good movie, it's definitely far from being perfect. For starters, Ilsa Fisher, who seems quite capable as a comedic actress, has very little to work with. And while Pam Brady, who wrote the sensational script for the movie South Park Bigger, Louder, and Uncut, she didn't really need that much assistance from Samberg and company in the script. But in the end, Hot Rod is definitely a pivotal milestone for Andy Samberg, and the future looks good. I mean, Samberg went on to star in such other films like That's My Boy, Celeste and Jesse Forever, and is now currently on the TV show Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's still, far from great, but it gives the true test of time that a bad movie can still be enjoyable. And if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I would definitely give it a 7. It's still a bad movie, far from perfect, but it was still enjoyable. And I could sit through bad movies and still enjoy it. It's bad, but it's not unwatchable. And I guess you could say I would probably just watch it on account of a guilty pleasure. That's pretty much all I have to say. So I guess this ends my rider review. Thank you all for listening in. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you'd like to leave a comment, go right ahead. Remember, be kind, be courteous, don't be rude, and I will be back again with another review. So until next time, this is Eric Carrot Rider saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.